This is a special edition of Off the Record News, and I welcome my guest that I have with me, my good friend, Mr. Johnny Howard. And he is running for City Council in St. Paul, Ward 1. So with that, I want to welcome Johnny Howard. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's just truly an opportunity, so thank you.
Yes, and you know, there are many folks in St. Paul who recognize the name Johnny Howard. But just in case they haven't been keeping up with what you've been doing here in our community, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about why you're running for City Council.
Well, you know, I'm not from St. Paul. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. You know, and I think it's probably relevant for me to talk about that because I've heard that, you know, Johnny wasn't born and raised here. And I'm trying to be clear with people that, you know, where you're born is irrelevant. It's not in the land, it's in the man or woman. And you know, it's the work you do that's important. I founded a little organization called the Thomas Dale Block Club back in the late 80s and early 1990s. Our mission was to develop a sense of pride in the neighborhood. Now that's an important thing when you're trying to build pride. When you're trying to build pride, that consists of looking at housing. That consists of looking at public safety, our seniors, our youth, jobs. And so when you're building pride, you talk about three things: hope, love, and possibilities. Now, when you put hope, love, and possibilities on the table, you can do great things. That neighborhood had the highest number of drug houses in the city of St. Paul. That neighborhood had drug houses on every block. We had prostitutes that's taken over the neighborhood. Johns cruising the neighborhood like they owned it. We took those issues on, we challenged them, we changed them. We created the internet poster of the Johns and prostitutes.
And I think what's so important about the work that you've done is that you have made the neighborhood more safe. You've also made it a community where families can grow and live. And that's really what you're building upon and trying to take it to the next step to be a city council member, correct?
You know, I'm glad you said it because I certainly wanted to say that. You know, people got to understand that this is your city, this is your neighborhood, and your children, they deserve a clean, safe, drug-free, crime-free place to live. Our seniors deserve the same thing. Now, the folks in the middle like us, I don't worry about too much. But our children and our seniors, they deserve something wonderful, someplace great. And you know, a city council member actually is a bodyguard. It's your job. Your job is to protect that neighborhood. Every resident, every business, as city council member, it's your job to make sure that they're safe and that they have opportunities.
Right, and I am so glad that you brought that up because that's a similar philosophy that I have as well, that when you're an elected official, that what your duty and your obligation is to those who are in your community who elected you, and to help them basically get their foot into City Hall, to be part of creating the public policy in their community, part of being the grassroots partnership with the elected officials. And I think so often that gets lost. And you've been part of the grassroots, and you understand the importance of having the people who are in the community be part of creating the public policy in the neighborhood.
You just really hit that. You know, I've said this and I'll say it again. There is a time for cheerful diplomacy. There is a time for that. But right now, Ward 1 needs strong, effective leadership. We'll smile later, but right now, we don't have jobs. Right now, we got 277 vacant homes. Right now, crime is on its way back. It's not time to smile, it's time to work. And so that's important. When I said thank you for this opportunity, I meant that. Within the job description of any public official is public servant. And so you got to want to serve and know how to serve people. And that's the quality I bring. I understand service.
Exactly. Well, you know, you showed me some film footage a while ago that was it was some years ago. It was some film footage that you had from a dinner. Senator Wellstone was there and was part of that initiative of what happened in the community. And tell us a little bit more about that.
You know, that's a film that haven't shown many people. The last time that Congressman Bento and Paul Wellstone was on stage together was at our annual dinner. And at that dinner, we talked about service. We talked about what it means to serve. You know, it's that old story, the ham, egg, and cheese sandwich. You know, the chicken was involved in making the sandwich. It laid eggs. The cow was involved in making the sandwich. It produced the milk to make the cheese. But old hog, that old pig, was committed to that sandwich. It gave its life. Mm-hmm. Good public servants are committed like that. We rarely sleep. We go home thinking about how do we do it better. And that's what Paul Wellstone was all about. He walked. Now, Sheila outwalked him in Frogtown. She had one march on him, but every year he walked 4 times a year with the Thomas Dale Block Club and shouting, we want a clean, safe, drug-free, crime-free neighborhood. I'm going to keep on saying that throughout this entire campaign.
I have really been touched by it, to be candid with you. Most of us in politics sort of float around a cloud over our heads about lamenting the fact that we, you know, like someone said, you got 90% of the vote, Bruce. I said, but what about those other 2,000 people that didn't vote for me? You realize that there are thousands of people in the district running around. So this is sort of the politician's attitude, is that, and of course I don't think you ever want to get those that are running for office to be too comfortable with themselves. In fact, that anxiety is a necessary tension, I'm sorry to say, to my colleagues, in order to get us to reform sometime.
I'll raise it again tonight. How can it be, with a booming economy, record economic performance, we're still being told by Republicans and too many Democrats, I can be nonpartisan about this, we're still being told that we can't afford to provide health security for every citizen.
Power is when you register to vote. He talked about power. Power is when you vote once you register. So think on that. He talked about heroes. When I was a child, we had Batman, we had Robin, we had Superman leaping off of buildings. And right now, we got people like Shem Shakir and Andy Williams. We got Jim Winslow. We got heroes like this Willie Mae Wilson taking on poverty. We got heroes right now taking on economic development, saying we deserve jobs, we deserve, entrepreneurs deserve opportunities. 10 years ago, Les and I had a dream. A dream that our neighborhoods could be better. A dream of a clean, comfortable, safe, drug-free, crime-free community. We said no more. We said no longer. We said no longer will we allow drug dealers to take over our streets. We said no longer we allow prostitutes to sell themselves on our street corners. We said no longer will we allow irresponsible property owners and irresponsible tenants to bring our property values down. We said no longer will we allow public drinking and public intoxication. We said no longer, listen to me, no longer will we allow our neighborhoods, listen to me, to play the victim. It's time to get involved. It's time to get overly involved. Not for me, not for yourselves, our children. Our children are less than 10% of the population. Our children are 100% of our future.
The guy I'm running against is talking about addressing the achievement gap. I understand that the state of Minnesota has a responsibility to educate our children. The state of Minnesota also separated the St. Paul School Board from the St. Paul City Council back in the 1960s. We pay over $200,000+ a year for the school superintendent and the school board to address the achievement gap. The city council members' responsibility is to address the opportunity gap. That's jobs. That's
Exactly.
housing.
And there was just recently an article in the paper that talked about this disparity of joblessness in St. Paul, and especially how it impacts the ethnic groups, and that St. Paul has the worst disparity in the nation. And I think it is critical that city council members do know what their role and their duty is. And it's not to talk about educational achievement gaps. It is indeed to talk about what functions the city is responsible for. And your issue about jobs is very critical in this time.
Being a champion, being a leader, being a representative, I understand that the light rail, the Met Council, they do the hiring. But if you coming through Ward 1, my mandate, you will hire Ward 1 people. Create a program, call it a pilot program, call it a balloon, call it anything you want, but hire Ward 1 people. And I'm upset that they haven't met their goals in hiring minorities and women. See, now that's what you're supposed to fight for as council member. When they decided to break ground in Ward 1, we should have knew how many Ward 1 people, not promised jobs, will be working on this thing, and we don't know that. They haven't met their mandates yet, and they have a responsibility. If you're going to break ground in Ward 1, if we can't run the machines, let us push the wheelbarrows. If we can't push the wheelbarrows, let us hold the sign, stop, go, move, jump. But pay our people. Ward 1 people need to eat also. It's just that simple.
Right, and you know, this idea that Ward 1 needs an advocate for Ward 1 goes right back to St. Paul having a charter and having wards. And part of having wards is so that you have a representative that represents each ward, that they come to the table of the city council and they say, you know, I'm looking out and representing the people of my ward, my area, and so you do have to advocate for the people of your ward. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that is essential to the people of your ward, that they do have an advocate. And of course, when there's more global policies that affect the entire city, well then you work together with other council members for the betterment of the entire city. But certainly you have to be an advocate for your own
We got to explain
ward.
that. We got to explain that. You know, I try to tell people, Mark Dayton is your employee. He works for you. Every elected official is your employee. St. Paul's strength was in the district council system, citizen participation. We got to rebuild that system. That's what I did with the Thomasdale Block Club. We created a system that we'd identify a problem and we go to every group, fix it. Now, if they couldn't do it, we fixed it ourselves. As the representative for Ward 1, we're going to fight. We're going to demand our just due on anything coming in this city. We're going to take care of Ward 1, and certainly we're going to look at the entire city, but any dollar being spent in the city of St. Paul indirectly need to benefit Ward 1. I'm going to fight for that.
Right. And another reason why it's important, I think, for each ward to be advocated for, to do well, is because if all the wards do well, then St. Paul as a city, as a whole, will do well as well.
See, you brought it back to Paul Wellstone. He says, you do better, we all do better.
Yeah.
And when you do good, we all do good. That's the secret
Well, see,
behind
and
this.
of course, that's why he was always out there marching with you.
We're going to keep on marching. We're going to keep on fighting. I love that. And that's one of the things we were powerful. The Block Club, we had this thing called 31 Days of Hope that we marched 31 days in a row. And that's what we did to bring visibility to our neighborhood. And we changed the neighborhood. we can change this entire ward, which indirectly will change this entire city. I've said already, year one, we're going to have the cleanest neighborhood in the city of St. Paul. I've said that I understand we're going to have crime, but just not in our boundaries. It's going to be crime in St. Paul, but in Ward 1, we're not going to tolerate it. We're going to fight for that.
A no tolerance policy.
No tolerance at all. It's not going to happen.
That's great.
That's going to be our fight. That's going to be our charge.
That's great. That's great. Now, of course, there's a lot of concerns about the foreclosure crisis. Give us a little of your insight on what you would like to do to address this issue at St. Paul.
I want to create a comprehensive housing plan, which involves working with our community development corporations, working with groups like Isaiah that wants to really address this thing nationally, but starting right there in Ward 1 to say, why can't we have a non-predatory contract for deed program? Why can't we use HUD's 203K program and put some of these young mothers into homes? We got to have an out-of-the-box creative plan that turns those 277 vacant houses into homes. Our Community Development Corporation, we got to create some rental property. Rental properties aren't the enemy. Landlords aren't the enemy. Bad landlords, that's the enemy. Bad tenants, that's the enemy. So we got to create a housing plan that's going to take those 277 plus vacant houses and turn them back into homes. And so we got to work with our organization, our nonprofits, to do that. And so we can take that issue. We don't need to build any more new houses right now. We need to rehab and rebuild the ones we got first.
Exactly, and certainly doing the rehab work and the energy retrofitting of these homes will also produce jobs. For a lot of people, and will have a long-term benefit. And they're really, it's a blight on a community when you have vacant homes that nobody is in. And there's increases vandalism and a lot of other things that you don't want.
Right.
And so getting to the heart of it and saying we need to take these vacant homes and make them occupied homes and work with the resources we have, that's a great message for your community.
We just introduced another page on our website that we talk about how vacant homes steal from the wealth of the community. And so on our website, we just introduced another page. We gave our opinion on housing. We've given our opinion on light rail and this broken promise. I call it the promised neighborhood. We've talked about all that on our website. We just put that up. But we must understand property value going down, taxes going up. That's backwards. We got to change that.
Now, for our viewers, let them know what your website is.
www.johnnyhoward.org.
Okay, there you go.
www.johnnyhoward.org. I had to remember it.
That's right. Well, you're out there door knocking. You're not busy looking and surfing on the internet, right?
I'm not looking at the internet. That's important, though. I don't want people calling the council member. I want people calling Johnny. I'm going to continue to knock doors. I've promised every culture group I've met with that we're going to have quarterly meetings just because. But I'm going to be at every one of their board meetings because that's my job.
And I think one of the things that you bring to the table that sometimes maybe other folks don't bring to the table is that you have been out on the street with your feet on the street.
That's right.
Working with the people shoulder to shoulder. You're not afraid to talk to them. You're not going to be hiding in the back room someplace, hoping that nobody calls or that maybe you'll sneak out the back door. That you want to be working with those folks and you want to have them help you find the solutions.
I'm telling people, if you call my office and we don't call you within 24 hours, you ought to call to have me impeached. Call to put me out of office. Your job is to represent the people, and you should call them back. You should call them back right away and be there when they need you. It's a bodyguard's position. You got to stand strong for the people you're saying you want to represent. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stand strong for people.
That's great.
You know what, though? Let me tell you something else.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am so proud that the Hmong Leadership Council came and said, Johnny, we're with you, we're supporting you. I've met with the Vietnamese community, and Johnny, we're with you. You know, but more importantly and interesting, I've had Republicans coming to me, Johnny, we want to vote for you. I said, well, why? They said, we got a right to vote for the person we think will best represent our issues. I said, you know, you're right, and you ought to vote for me. I said, write some checks, too. I said, but you ought to vote for me because whether you're Democrat, Republican, green, fat, old, short, tall, I don't like to be skinny people. But the thing is, you have a right to put the person in office that's going to look out for you. So I'm excited about that people are coming together, not around party, but around people. And we said we want to put people first, so that's exciting to me.
And I think that is something that really struck me about your campaign, is that you are reaching out to people from all walks of life, all parties, that you want to represent them as people. You as a person, not you as a representative of a party. Even though you are Green Party endorsed, you are coming to it saying, I am here to represent everybody of the ward.
And that's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to make sure these next 4 years that every issue we address, we're going to figure out a way to have fun dealing with it. When we close down a drug house, when we put up a new building, when we open up those doors, those unlocked doors at the rec centers, we're going to enjoy all of that. We're going to have many victories in Ward 1, and people are going to be excited about it.
That's great. Now, for our viewers out there, I want to make sure that you know that you must mark your calendar Tuesday, November 8th, because that's the election date. So if you didn't mark it on your calendar, this is your chance to do that right now after the program, so you don't forget. I had the opportunity, Johnny, to take a look at your campaign literature here. And you know, you've got a great photo on the front of it. It looks like you're at some rally or whatever, and it looks like there's a nice, beautiful young woman right there behind you. Is that your wife?
You know,
Tell us a little about your family.
Well, let me. This is gonna get me in trouble. But our anniversary was Thursday.
Oh, okay.
28 years. I said, Diane, you know, you're probably the luckiest woman in the world. 28 years with me.
And what did she say?
Well, but we just celebrated 28 years.
That's amazing.
And, it's like yesterday when we got together. We're friends. We're friends. She's my critiquer. You know, she said, Johnny, don't send out the door till I proof it. You know, don't wear that tie. You know, but that's my partner. That's my friend. And 28 years, that's not a long time, but it's been a great time.
Yeah.
It's been a great time.
Ward 1, for our viewers who may not be familiar with the boundaries, tell our viewers where the boundaries of Ward 1 are.
Well, we call, let's just say, first of all, we're going to say all of Ramsey Hill, the Snelling Hamlin neighborhood, the Lexham neighborhood, the Summit U, Frogtown, and part of the North End. That goes from Snelling on the west side, 35E to the east, the south side of Summit, and the north side of Front Street. But all of that's Ward 1, and we want everybody to call and get a lawn sign, because we want to put plenty of lawn signs. We want to show the visibility. We want to show the support, and we want to show this thing I talk about hope. Hope is so important in community building. You know, we put together our rap. You know, I rap a little bit.
Oh, really?
Let me rap for you.
Yes, please do so.
It's responsibility, accountability, which leads to the possibilities of the type of neighborhood we're going to have if we're responsible, accountable people. I can't sing it all, but that's my rap. And that's the rap we're going to work on. And we're going to work by responsibility, accountability, which is going to lead to great possibilities in Ward 1.
That's excellent. Now, you had mentioned that viewers could call and get a sign. So what's that number?
651-894-3216. 651-894-3216. Or, you know, every Friday I'm at Golden Time Coffee Shop. That's at 921 Selby. They ought to just stop in. We just talk, and, you know, I'm going to do that throughout that term in office. I'm going to visit Nina's and Golden Time and Sugar Rush. I'm going to be at the neighborhood coffee shops I'm trying not to eat the donuts. But I'm going to be at the neighborhood coffee shops. Again, I don't want people calling the council member. I want people calling Johnny. I think that's better.
Yeah, I think that is too, and I think it's great that you're going to places in the community to meet the people. Again, going to meet the people rather
Right.
than expecting them to have to try to figure out how to find you.
Right.
I think, you know, that
That's it,
is
ain't it?
so refreshing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful. We don't have too much time left, but you know, I wanted to talk a little bit about something I heard you say at another event that I really felt struck home. You said something to the effect that if you're not at the table, you'll be on the menu.
If you're not at the table, you'll be on the menu. Absolutely. We got to vote. We got to get involved in our neighborhood groups. If there's a housing group meeting, creating plans around housing, and you're not at that table, that agenda is probably going to exclude you. You got to be at the table, or you will be end up on the menu. You get ate up.
Yeah, I heard you say that. I thought that is so catchy because it really sums it up for citizens and the need for them to be involved, to get involved, to stay involved, and not get discouraged. And I think that certainly when you're elected to city council, you'll be able to encourage them to stay involved and rather than put roadblocks in their way.
We're going to hold neighborhood meetings. We're going to have community gatherings. We're going to be so visible. You know, now I've told the seniors, because they eat at all their luncheons, they don't have to worry about me showing up. I'll be there with them. But neighborhood gatherings and neighborhood events, we're going to be at all of them. Visibility.
That's good. That's excellent. Now, when you look to the future and some of the initiatives or ideas that you have that you want to pursue when you're elected to city council, can you give us sort of a little summary of some of those?
I want to hit four things. First of all, our rec centers that close early on Fridays and not open on Saturdays and got locked doors, we're going to change that. Our neighborhood recreation centers are going to be neighborhood and community friendly. That's first. Secondly, we're going to take these empty houses and we're going to turn them into homes. That's going to be a challenge, but we're going to challenge every bank within our geographic area and out state work with us to recreate some proper, some decent loans, and then safety. I got a little pretty grandbaby. I got two little pretty grandbabies, two little girls right here in St. Paul, and I want them to just grow up and have a safe neighborhood and walk down the street. And so I've been telling people, call the police and then call your council member. We're going to fight crime together. And so I want a clean, safe neighborhood, and that's been my mantra all along. Good leaders listen, but we can have a clean, safe neighborhood.
That's great, and I'm sure that there's probably a few voters out there that are wondering, when you're elected, are you going to have an unlisted phone number?
I'm going to keep the same number. I'm going to keep the same. And look, I've been living at 638 Van Buren for 28 years. I'm not moving. And so, you remember the movie Walking Tall? The guy said, I'm the easiest man in town to find. I'm going to be right there.
And I think that's a great way to conclude, because you started off the program by saying that some folks were trying to make a big deal about the fact that you actually originally grew up somewhere else. But really, your home is where your heart is, and I think it's very clear and very evident that St. Paul, Ward 1, is where your heart is and where your home is.
I love it.
Yes.
I
Now,
love it.
any last comments you'd like to give to the viewers out there other than vote November 8th?
I want to just say this, together. You know, they say, if I try, I could do anything in reality. Together, we can make a difference. I just want people to join me in this challenge, to make Ward 1 the cleanest, safest, most productive neighborhood in the city of St. Paul. That's what I want to do.
Well, very good. Very good. Excellent. Well, I wish you great luck November 8th. I'll be watching the polls. I know everybody else will as well. So thank you very much, Johnny Howard, for coming out here and sharing your views with the viewers.
Thank you.
And to our viewers out there, thank you for tuning in to our program today. Tune in again next week and we'll have another new program. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.